Interestingly, we haven't seen the indictments yet. There's been some time lag. I suppose it will take some time to go through all the forensic, evidence.
We've all seen the headlines, the courtroom sketches, the viral clips of handcuffs and mugshots. Diddy's empire isn't just cracking, it's collapsing under federal charges, civil lawsuits, and a public reckoning that's forcing hip-hop to look in the mirror. But here's where things get uncomfortable. This story isn't only about the past. What's coming out now points to a pattern that never really stopped. And right at the center of that pattern is a name nobody expected to hear in this way: Jay-Z. The man known for discipline, structure, and turning "I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman" into a life blueprint is now surrounded by whispers that refuse to die down. Those whispers are moving fast through industry circles. Insiders are talking quietly. Security teams are comparing notes. And 50 Cent keeps poking the situation in ways that make people uneasy. If federal investigators start lining up timelines and connections, this could spiral into something way bigger than anyone planned.
I'll just tell you, if it was me, I would be more than a little upset. I was more than a little upset when the client didn't know and I was being recorded. I mean, there was a while there where I was meeting clients under bridges, freeway bridges, because I was PTSD over it. So I think, as a lawyer, it is one of the most inviolate oaths that you take to protect the client.
Now let's talk about the parties, and not the old school ones from the 90s or early 2000s. These are happening right now. While Diddy sits in a Brooklyn detention facility awaiting a May 2025 trial tied to racketeering and trafficking charges, sources connected to the industry's inner circle claim Jay-Z has been hosting private, invite-only gatherings. No white dress codes, no Instagram rollouts, just locked down locations and tight control over who gets access. And the talk around these events feels familiar, not coming from random internet accounts, but from people who worked security, handled logistics, or were physically present. People saying the atmosphere carries the same tension they've felt before. One former associate, speaking anonymously, put it plainly: the only thing that changed is who's throwing the parties. And if any of this is true, it raises a question nobody's really saying out loud yet. Did Jay-Z study Diddy's playbook, or was he always operating inside the same system? Then there's the video, or more accurately, the rumor of a video. 50 Cent has never been the type to sit quietly on the sidelines. Just last week, he dropped a cryptic post that instantly set tongues wagging. It showed a deep fake style clip with Jay-Z edited into a viral moment, paired with a smug caption and one specific date: December 2nd. The exact same day, his Diddy documentary, Sean Combs' The Reckoning, landed on Netflix. At first glance, people brushed it off as trolling, but insiders say this goes way deeper. Multiple sources close to 50's camp claim he's holding real footage from one of Jay-Z's recent private events. Not something meant for laughs, not for clout. They say it's serious enough to be used as leverage. Not for money either, but for silence or control.
He really screwed up, and I'm not referring to his criminal trial, which has him sitting in prison right now, but it has to do with something that happened right before he got arrested. If you've seen the Netflix documentary about Diddy, The Reckoning, which 50 Cent produced, there's some footage there that had never been seen before. This is a photographer that Diddy hired to follow him around.
Here's the scary part. Nobody outside that circle knows what's actually on the footage. Nobody can confirm if it's authentic. But one thing is clear: when 50 Cent moves like this, he's not bluffing. Not when the stakes are this high. And if federal investigators are still digging through Diddy's old network, one leaked clip could flip this whole situation from messy headlines into a full-scale investigation. Now, let's talk about the lawsuit. Filed in December 2024, it accused both Diddy and Jay-Z of involvement in an incident dating back to 2000. The accuser, identified only as Jane Doe, claims she was taken to a post-VMA after-party where both men were allegedly present during an assault. The case was later dropped, but the accusation alone sent shockwaves through the industry. The accuser disappeared from public view, but the damage was already done. Jay-Z's team fired back hard, calling the case a foolish accusation and an attempted extortion. His response wasn't quiet or polite, it was firm, almost personal. He made it clear, saying, "We don't play these types of games," and stressed that his circle lives by strict codes and honor. But here's the issue. Codes don't stop lawsuits, and they definitely don't erase timelines.
Let's be real for a second. there are a lot of lawyers who call this legal extortion, and that this is the way the legal system works, which is you threaten somebody with reputational harm. And in this case, it's interesting that Jay-Z, who's very wealthy, said it would be financial ruin.
Because just months later, everything changed. Diddy was indicted on federal charges tied to decades of alleged misconduct. That's when people started looking backward instead of away. If these patterns are real, if the connections run deeper than anyone admitted, then Jay-Z's name isn't buried in footnotes anymore. It's drifting closer to the crosshairs. And then there's the money, because this was never just about parties or personal behavior. This was always about power. Diddy's collapse didn't begin with one accusation. It started when the financial dominoes tipped over. Sponsors vanished. Business partners backed away fast. The same brands that once chased his luxury image suddenly wanted nothing to do with him. Meanwhile, Jay-Z spent years building an untouchable aura. NFL partnerships, billion-dollar art deals, boardroom respect. But what happens if the public starts viewing him through the same lens? What happens if federal investigators, already deep in Diddy's orbit, start asking about shared associates, overlapping circles, and those private gatherings nobody likes to explain? We've seen how fast fortunes flip. We've seen how quickly alleged turns into indicted.
Tick-tock, tick-tock, the clock is ticking on Diddy, because on Friday he finds out what his sentence is going to be, but today he found out what prosecutors would like that sentence to be, and it is vastly different from what his attorneys have suggested to the judge. Prosecutors want him to do 11 years, just over.
And here's where it gets even messier. 50 Cent isn't just hinting anymore. He's weaponizing the moment. His Netflix documentary didn't just spotlight Diddy. It mapped out how these systems move. And ever since its release, he's been teasing Jay-Z's involvement like a chess player lining up the next strike. First move, that Super Bowl joke. Are we still having the Super Bowl? That line wasn't random at all. It was a sharp jab aimed straight at Roc Nation and its deep ties to the event, and everybody in the industry caught it. After that came the deleted AI clip, the steady social media pokes, and those not-so-subtle hints that Jay-Z's silence is louder than anything he could say. Now, the talk has shifted again. Sources inside the music business claim 50 Cent has been quietly reaching out to former Bad Boy affiliates. The message is simple. Talk and get protection, or stay quiet and risk exposure. No money games, no public announcements, just pressure applied behind closed doors. It's a dangerous move, but if there's one thing people know about 50, it's this. He doesn't step onto the board unless he believes he's holding the stronger hand.
So that's just competitive.
Competitiveness.
All right, so you and Diddy, you and Puff cool?
No, I don't really rock with him.
Okay,
like that.
damn, all right. I didn't know what that meant.
Okay,
All right, okay.
And don't lose track of the timeline. Diddy's arrest in September 2024 wasn't the finale, it was the opening chapter. Prosecutors have already hinted at superseding indictments, meaning more charges could still be coming. They've got witnesses, they've got documents, they've got years of financial records and NDAS that may not survive serious scrutiny. If Jay-Z's name appears anywhere in that web, even on the edges, the fallout won't stop at courtrooms. This would hit culture itself, because unlike Diddy, Jay-Z isn't just a mogul. He's a symbol.
Probably leaning towards guilt. Now, on the racketeering, I agree with you that the predicate acts may be found, but that's not all they need. There's an ultimate question. The first question on the jury verdict form is, do you find him guilty or not guilty of racketeering? Before you even get to the predicate acts, which you only get to if you find guilt, they could just be hung up on that question and say, this guy's not Tony Soprano. I am not convinced that I even want to find guilt.
The man who went from Brooklyn to the boardroom. The artist who turned I Got 99 Problems into a Harvard Business School case study. If that image starts cracking, the entire industry feels the tremor. And while all this brews, the parties haven't stopped. They've just gone underground. No cameras, no hype. Private locations where phones get checked, guest lists are tight, and whatever happens stays blurry enough to feed the myths. You hear the rumors about influence, about power, about networks that don't collapse from scandal but feed on it. And if Jay-Z is still hosting while his former ally sits in a cell, the question isn't only what he knew back then, it's what he's still doing right now. Here's the thing about patterns. They don't stop unless someone forces them to stop. One man might be in custody, but the machine he built doesn't disappear just because he's gone. And if Jay-Z is still pulling levers behind the scenes while 50 Cent is sitting on material that could blow everything wide open, then this isn't just the aftermath of one downfall. This looks like the setup for another. That's the real difference this time. The stakes aren't just about one career crashing out. They're about an entire legacy and about the people who spent decades making sure certain stories never saw daylight.
Is a partial verdict in the Diddy case after 2 days. The jury has reached unanimous decisions on 4 of the 5 counts.
The problem is that 5th count means that we don't get to find out what the verdicts are on the other 4 because they are hung up on.
Now add in the track record of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. They don't chase one name and call it a day. When they smell a conspiracy, they follow every thread. They flip witnesses. They dig through documents. They keep going until every connected name is on the table. And if Jay-Z's name shows up in those files, even on the edges, then the next knock won't be somewhere flashy like Miami or LA. It could hit much closer to home. Because if Diddy's case taught the industry anything, it's this. No amount of money, no army of lawyers, and no polished public image can outrun a federal case once it gains real momentum. And 50 Cent, he's not just watching quietly, he's making it clear he's holding receipts and he wants the world to know it. The only real question left is timing. Is he waiting for a bigger scandal, more pressure, or is he just letting the heat rise until there's only one move left to make? Because in this game, there's one rule that never changes. Secrets don't stay buried forever. Right now, the clock is ticking. The parties haven't stopped, the videos haven't magically disappeared, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation is still asking questions. So let's stop pretending this story is finished. And let's not act like Jay-Z's name floating around is just some minor footnote. If the last year has shown us anything, it's that the moment people think the story peaked, that's when the real explosion hits. And this time, the blast radius could be way bigger than anyone's ready for. If we're talking consequences, we have to start with the money. That's where panic really sets in. Jay-Z's empire isn't built on hit records alone. It's a complex web of investments, partnerships, and high-stakes deals that can unravel fast once the wrong questions get asked. Roc Nation isn't just a label or management firm. It has deep connections to the National Football League, plus global brands like Pepsi and Chase. That's real money, corporate money, the kind that doesn't wait around for explanations. Even the streaming platform Jay-Z, positioned as an artist-first revolution, has already faced questions about financial transparency. Now imagine federal investigators, or worse, corporate auditors, digging into where funds flowed, who benefited, and whether any of it ever crossed paths with Diddy's world. At that point, we're not talking about bad headlines anymore. We're talking morality clauses, sponsors walking away overnight, and investment portfolios taking hits the second legal smoke appears. From beverages to real estate, one whiff of risk and the money runs. And money doesn't hesitate, it doesn't argue, it flees. Unlike Diddy, who leaned on raw personality and intimidation, Jay-Z's power comes from being the safe bet, the guy who turned street credibility into boardroom trust. Then there's the NDA problem, and this is where things get uncomfortable fast. We've all heard how Diddy's world ran on silence, how payouts and legal pressure kept accusations buried for years. But here's what insiders keep saying. Jay-Z's operation wasn't built softer, it was built smarter. Former employees connected to Roc Nation have quietly whispered for years about ironclad agreements. Not just for stars, but for interns, assistants, vendors, anyone close enough to see how things really moved. Everybody signed. No exceptions. One music industry lawyer who worked with both camps explained it like this. Diddy's contracts focused on control, focused on erasure. If something went wrong, it didn't just get buried, it disappeared. No paper trail, no emails, no witnesses willing to talk. But here's where that strategy breaks down. When the Federal Bureau of Investigation shows up, NDAs don't mean much. And if even one person flips, one former assistant, one frustrated artist, one accountant with a conscience, the whole structure can crumble. Diddy's downfall already proves something important. Money can buy silence, but it can't buy loyalty when prison time is on the table. And then there are the overlaps, the shared projects, the collaborations, the moments where both worlds crossed in ways that hit different under a legal microscope. Take 2007, the Screamfest tour. Diddy and Jay-Z shared a stage. And that viral clip where Diddy slapped Jay playfully on the backside was brushed off as harmless at the time. Funny, lighthearted, nothing serious. But today, that's the kind of footage prosecutors love. Proof of proximity, shared circles, A relationship that's harder to downplay? Or look at 2005, the Hurricane Katrina fundraiser where they jointly donated $1 million. A generous move, no doubt. But if investigators start tracing where money flowed, who sat in the rooms, and what conversations happened behind closed doors, charity can suddenly look like opportunity. And then there's the 2020 Black Billionaire Brunch, the moment when Diddy publicly toasted a tighter bond with Jay-Z just months before the first lawsuits against him surfaced. Coincidence? Maybe. But in a federal investigation, coincidences are the first thing that get torn apart. Now let's talk about the industry's real dirty secret. Everybody knew, not just about Diddy, but about the entire machine. The parties weren't just fun, they were boundaries blurred. After-hours gatherings where power mattered more than talent. An unspoken rule that if you wanted access, you followed the code. And Jay-Z wasn't just in the room, he was hosting rooms. Take his 2016 VMA after party, the same night Beyoncé announced her pregnancy. The guest list looked like a reunion of the same elite crowd that had been moving around Diddy for decades. The same crowd that's now scrambling, deleting old photos, scrubbing timelines, and acting like they were never there. But here's the problem. History leaves receipts. And if the Federal Bureau of Investigation starts pulling security footage, text messages, emails, and financial records from those nights, Jay-Z's name won't just pop up casually. It could land right in the middle of everything, because this isn't only about one man. It's about the system, the managers, the lawyers, the label executives who looked the other way because the money was flowing and the access felt too valuable to lose. That includes powerful figures like L.A. Reid, who worked with both men and later faced his own misconduct allegations. Or Jimmy Iovine, a kingmaker who helped build careers tied to both Diddy and Jay-Z, yet has stayed noticeably silent since these scandals started unfolding. And when silence spreads at the top, it usually means pressure is coming from somewhere. Or take Beyoncé's team, a group that spent years crafting an image of flawless empowerment and control, only to see her husband's name pulled into a lawsuit, their own legal side reportedly labeled as serious and damaging. Do we really believe nobody around them saw anything? Or that they didn't benefit from the same culture of silence that protected everyone at the top? The difference now is simple. The public isn't buying the narrative anymore, and neither are federal investigators. That old playbook doesn't hit the same when receipts start piling up. And then there's the family angle, which is where powerful men really start feeling pressure. Beyoncé's brand is built on perfection, elite performances, feminist anthems, and a carefully managed image of Black excellence. That image isn't accidental. It's protected at all costs. But what happens if Jay-Z's name keeps popping up in depositions? What happens if subpoenas start landing at Parkwood Entertainment, the company tied directly to her business empire? We've already seen how fast sponsors run when scandal shows up. Just look at Diddy's former partners like Ciroc or Revolt. Once the heat turned up, loyalty disappeared overnight. Now imagine Beyoncé gearing up for a tour while headlines keep circling her husband's legal drama. That kind of noise doesn't stay backstage. And then there's the personal side. Jay-Z's comment about having to sit his children down wasn't just polished PR, it sounded more like a warning, a signal that he understands the stakes aren't only money or reputation anymore. They're about family, about legacy, about what follows you home when the cameras shut off. Then you've got the artists, the ones whose careers are tied to Jay-Z's machine, and the silence around them is loud. Rihanna worked with both Jay-Z and Diddy and hasn't said a word. J. Cole has publicly called Jay-Z a mentor. Even younger giants like Kendrick Lamar took the Super Bowl stage under Roc Nation's banner. The question is simple. What did they see and what do they actually know? The bigger question might be this. What are they willing to say if the pressure turns up too high? Because one lesson from the Diddy case is clear. Loyalty always comes with a price. And when the alternative is becoming the next Cassie or being forced into anonymity, people start doing serious math about survival. And don't get it twisted, the Federal Bureau of Investigation is watching closely. They don't lock onto one name and stop there. In cases like this, they widen the net. They flip witnesses, they follow money trails, they hunt patterns, and if Jay-Z's name keeps surfacing around Diddy's orbit, old business, shared associates, or those infamous private parties, this won't stay boxed inside civil court. They'll keep digging until something sticks. Remember, Diddy's indictment didn't come from a single voice. It came from years of accusations, financial records, and insiders who finally broke. If Jay-Z's name sits anywhere in that pattern, Even in the background, the next subpoena won't be about Diddy. It could be about him. Meanwhile, 50 Cent isn't just holding one clip. He's sitting on a whole network. The same sources who fed him material for The Reckoning are still talking. And if the rumors are right, he's collected stories from former Bad Boy staff, security teams, and people who worked both sides of the Roc Nation and Bad Boy divide. Then we're not just talking about a leak anymore, we're talking about a flood. 50 Cent doesn't play the long game for entertainment. He plays to win. And if he was willing to torch Diddy's legacy without blinking, why would he hesitate to drag Jay-Z into the fire too? Because here's the real truth. Jay-Z's power was never only about talent. It was about control, the ability to shape narratives, to bury stories, to make problems quietly disappear. That kind of control only works when the world agrees to look away. And right now, the world isn't in that mood anymore. Between the Me Too movement, Hollywood's reckoning, and the public's growing distrust of untouchable moguls, the rules have shifted. What used to stay in the shadows doesn't stay there now. Private gatherings, quiet payouts, backroom deals that once kept everyone comfortable don't fade out anymore. They blow up. And that brings up the question nobody wants to say out loud. What happens if the Federal Bureau of Investigation finds more? Not just a video, not just another lawsuit, but a paper trail, emails, payments, records that suggest Jay-Z wasn't just nearby, but actively moving within the same culture that ultimately destroyed Diddy. What happens if the next raid isn't in Miami or LA, but right in New York at the offices of Roc Nation? What happens if the next indictment isn't about assault or trafficking, but obstruction? Knowing what was happening and choosing silence anyway. Because that's how federal cases really work. They don't just come for the guilty, they come for the complicit. And if we're being honest, the scariest part of this story isn't what's already public. Because here's the one rule about scandals like this. The first domino is never the last. Diddy was just the opening act. Jay-Z might be the main event, but the real story is bigger than any one name. This is about an industry that allowed it. The enablers, the beneficiaries, the people who partied, profited, and conveniently looked the other way while the machine kept running. For years, silence paid well. Access was everything, and accountability was optional. But if that curtain is finally being pulled back, get ready, because this isn't just another celebrity scandal. This is an extinction-level shakeup, careers, fortunes, reputations, all on the line at the same time. So now the real question is yours. Do you think Jay-Z's empire survives this kind of pressure? Or is this the moment when the music finally stops and the industry has to face itself? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit like if you've been following this story as closely as I have. Share this with someone who needs to see it. And make sure you subscribe, because when the next shoe drops, you'll want to be here for it. I'll see you in the next one. Trust me, you won't want to miss what comes next.